Good evening. Welcome to the Savage Universe. I'm Jan, and I have the distinct pleasure of hanging out with a trio of cool people tonight, and we're going to be talking about the Han cluster. Some of you have been guests here before. Why don't you take a second to introduce yourself and explain how you are connected? We'll start with Tracy.
How I'm connected to the Han cluster or to Savage Worlds?
X-Bonds,
Oh,
however.
well, I'm Tracy Sizemore. I'm the writer creator of the Han cluster, and I've been doing Pinnacle work for Pinnacle for a couple of years now. I don't know, a few years, I suppose. I did Holler as a developer. I developed Pine Box Middle School. I wrote a whole bunch of adventures and contributed to Suede even. Pretty cool. And yeah, that's me.
I think Daryl should go.
Daryl's all right.
Hi, I'm Daryl.
I think I know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, the fun thing is, I'm not here as Pinnacle staff or anything.
No,
he's here as a fan.
No. He's here as distinguished Han cluster key contributor. Yeah.
The good fortune of living down the street from Tracy, so we get to hang out and play.
Oh, lucky!
Throw ideas back. I know, right?
Since the first grade, woohoo!
That's right? Yeah. So that explains my presence here.
I like to call I'm Boof, also known as Jessica, but I'm Boof, and I like to call Daryl the namer of the Han cluster. So it's all his fault that it's got a little confusion on the name.
I deny that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's true.
I'm gonna absorb so much credit for random things. Hi, that wasn't me. That was absolutely Tracy. Okay.
So I'm Boof. I'm Tracy's wife, and I am the enabler of spending money, and I am the bouncer offer of long stories, and my ideas are all ignored, but prompt really good other ideas. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Right? It's fantastic. Well, in case you've been under a rock for since Tuesday, Han Cluster is launched, funded in 26 minutes, and has already unlocked a ton of stretch goals. And we're going to talk about this a little bit, but tonight, Tracy has told me that we are rolling back the curtain of the plot point campaign, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. The last couple of times you've been on, Tracy, you not wanted to talk about the plot point campaign because partially it was so personal, partially because it's so pivotal to what the Han cluster is, and partially because I was about to run a blind play test and you didn't want to poison the well. But that is over.
That is all over now.
She knows I can't keep my mouth shut, so it's okay, let's just go all the way up.
Yeah, no, I think it's time. Partially the reason, there were multiple reasons why I was keeping it a little close to the vest. One is I want it to be discovered as players discover it, but here you are here on this stream, and your reward is to hear all these things. And partly was to keep from poisoning the well of JM, because a blind play test is important, and especially for this one because it is such a unique campaign. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't quite finished with it, and I live under that precept, right or wrong, that you only have one chance to make a good first impression. And so I was very careful to I want to make sure that it's done before I really talk about it.
And it is.
And it is. It is.
Knights of the Smith Dinner Table just said that they've pledged, and they were in my playtest group, and playtesting was a ton of fun. Agreed.
Nice.
Yay. That's a relief, I have to say.
Yes.
Blind playtest having a ton of fun. That's a testament to you, JM, and it's a relief that my words made sense.
As somebody who also believes pretty heavily in blind playtesting and had some great blind playtesters for Jackals, I know both that exhilaration and that fear as you're
abject terror.
Okay, here you go. Please be gentle.
I'm not going to say anything. There you go.
You can make this really great. I'd like it. Or break everything.
Well, I remember listening to John Wick, the game designer, not the assassin, talk about Legend of the Five Rings, mm-hmm. and how it was all on paper for the role playing game, and it wasn't clicking. And then John ran a game for the Alderac people, and I don't know whether it was John Zinzer or whoever was in charge of the RPG line was like, that was fantastic. I get it. Now we have to figure out how to box you and send you out with every book. And that's a really difficult thing to do. Like, you can run something that's passionate and personal and, deeply integral to a passion project that you're doing. And for your home group, aces. Mm-hmm. Conveying that so that another GM can run it for another group of players. That's
especially something like Han Cluster that's a little unusual and has its own very unique voice and style. And it's like, trying to package that and get it to work for someone else. So like, even if, Mean Daryl, is playing it, like some of those elements of the optimism and all that will come through anyway, despite what a horrible person I am.
Okay, so we've all talked around how the plot point campaign for the Han Cluster is both kind of the core of the backer kit campaign, but also that it's so unique. Tell us about it. Tell us why you feel that it is this unique plot point campaign experience. I mean, I'll add at the end because I would agree with that. But
so I think to start with, the important thing to establish is, if people do or don't know, like one of the core conceits of the settings is this bond. Right, that the characters can physically and mentally connect or whatever. And one of the things that was so much fun developing that, when Tracy and I would be talking about it, is one of the things that works so well about it is it's just how you act at the table anyway. Right? It's like, oh, you can table talk. It's a thing in the game world. And be like, hey, I want to give you advice. Well, you're not in the room. Doesn't matter. I give you advice. Or, oh man, something really interesting is happening over there with that other character, but I'm way over here. It's like, well, cool. You can jump in on that scene and be part of the action. And like, that's essentially a game mechanic that works super well in tabletop. And then the plot point campaign says, okay, now you've got this core mechanic. Now let's mess with it. Like, there is a threat to it that could in fact destroy the entire, known galaxy. What do you do?
All right. So again, to talk vaguely, Tracy, you can tell me if I can speak any more specifically, but in the final scene, the group has to split up, and the map that you have, so that basically you can set the map up and have both teams on the map so that we can, just running it was super simple with the map. The way Savage Worlds mechanics work, it's always nice and easy. But at one point, one group got into severe trouble with the threats they were facing.
Yeah,
and
that sounds familiar.
I've done it 3 times every single time.
One of our players, Tinker Hellraiser, who I haven't seen in the chat yet tonight, was like, well, wait, I can just X-Ghost over there, right? And we're like, yeah. And so her, corporeal body fell on one side, appeared on the other side of the map, and blasted everyone with an entangle power that gave the group
the breathing
just
room,
that edge that they needed to get over. And it was awesome. She felt awesome. The rest of the group was like, oh, thank God. And it was awesome.
I like calling that flopping. Like where you're in something and it's like, oh, nope, I got to flop. And your body just boom, face down. You appear somewhere else to do something. Your body's still there, potentially in trouble. And everyone's kind of looking over like,
now, John Doom did bring up, we identified that the Han Cluster has the biggest battle map ever printed. Because technically, the two halves of that battle map are 3,000 light years apart. So no one will beat that.
So I'll let Boof talk. Boof, what makes the plot point special for you, or what makes it interesting?
So I still like to think I'm a new gamer. I'm not, but I still like to think I'm a new gamer. And there's so much about the go out and riffs. You want to just go out and just destroy everything and lay waste to the world, right? I guess. I did. With my bubble of. I did.
The dark side comes out.
That's right. But the wonderful thing about this, and because you're bonded, is that you care so much about the other characters in your team, so much more so than in another game that, you know, you're trying to just kill everything, or, you know, just like get in the boat is the point, right? Get in the boat, move it along, you know. And for this, is like you can just to have conversations with non-player characters is important.
Mm-hmm.
Like the non-player characters in this game are just as important as the player characters, and it's just there's so much heart and care and compassion forward with machines. And like, you know, can I say his name? That my favorite
Sure.
martini maker, Buddy.
Yes.
The first time you meet Buddy, you're just like, I have to be as kind to this robot and like just play with them and have fun. You know, it's just such a neat, compassion and heart forward game.
So I just want to like make sure everybody knows, and I think everybody here would agree, that the NPCs are super important, but they're not more important than the PCs are. In fact, the PCs are the only people who can solve this problem.
Yeah.
But part of the conceit of the game is that you can't do it all by yourselves.
Yeah.
And the NPCs that you meet along the way, they become much, much more than you realize they are as you get to the end of the game. Because, and I've talked about this on other streams, the blinded is affecting almost everybody, right? And as that effect gets worse, and we can get into that a little if you want to, but as that effect gets worse, you have only very, very few people you can count on at the end of the campaign, and yet you've got a whole universe of people to save.
Yeah.
You know, and so those NPCs become so important that at one point you have a chance to step into their shoes and tell their stories for just for a session or two, for a few sessions.
Yeah.
You get that chance to play through their contribution. Right?
Grab your favorite and drive them like you stole them.
Yes. Yes. And then you go back to your characters, and then you go back and you play your characters at the end to the finale, right? But you've given those characters something meaningful, and you've become part of that, right? And so at the very end of the campaign, it depends on how you do it, but the way it's written is it all comes together. Like it's a mechanical and narrative combination and culmination of what this setting is all about, which is connecting together.
So I think the reason that
it almost kills you as well.
Yeah. When you were explaining this to me many months ago, when we first had our first Savage Universe and we were talking about this, two of my favorite novel series that I return to over and over again, the Malazan Books of the Fallen and the Lord of the Rings. Compassion is the key component to both of those stories, and so there's a reason why I enjoy Grimdark, I enjoy all these other things, but those are the two stories I return back to, because the idea of compassion is what makes us humans is a theme I never get tired of, and that is a huge component of the Han cluster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just to be clear, there's pirates and evil clowns that you get to murder, or whatever that term is. That
evil corporations.
Yeah, evil corporations, people with bombs. Like, there's tons. Like, you can go smack down everybody you want to smack down. And it's important that you smack people down, but you're also gonna like a lot of people along the way.
All right, so let's talk about the blinding. So this is at the core of the plot point campaign. In fact, the whole plot point campaign kind of revolves around not so much the mystery of the blinding, but the mystery of how to deal with the blinding.
Yes. Fundamentally, and the reason that is this, I really wanted this to be a human story. Ultimately, the blinding, and this is a spoiler I already gave on another stream, is the first contact with an alien species. That is what the blinding is. And yet no one really knows that.
Yeah.
Even at the end, it's a question, right? This is a human story, and I wanted to concentrate on what we did, not on what the aliens are doing.
Yeah.
So yes, I just interrupted to do that, but
No.
I just wanted to make sure that this is a human story, and that's why I don't explain everything, because I want to have room for if this takes off and I can do something else with it, but also because I didn't want to dilute that message.
Yeah.
Of this is how we deal with the problem together, right?
Yeah.
Well, and also that it's a human problem, but what it is that makes something or something or someone human, because there's machines that are what's the word, honey?
Linked to the
Linked machines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not the technical person. I just say spend more money. I like the arts. Can we have more of this? Spend it. Yeah,
Well, thank you, Boof, because the art is spectacular.
So good.
Yeah.
It is so good. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're theater people, lighting designers, and stage managers, so we like get the whole thing. And she would show me stuff. I'm like, oh no, that's not gonna work. We need a, So we're very critical about the art. So I'm so proud of what we got.
And that's part of that, like upside downside, right? Upside is we have this force that is connecting everyone in a certain way, and the player characters more so than most. And that's something it's a distinction that is easy to get lost just talking about it. Is most people can use this like a telephone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, how you doing over there? The player characters can literally launch through it, like and pop up or whatever. And that is not unknown, but it's very rare, and it's infinitesimally rare among more than a pair of people.
Right.
So like a group of 5 being able to do it, there are just not mechanisms in the world to stop it or take advantage of it. So you can do things that it's like, well, what if someone's in jail? It's like, yeah, they don't jail proof that because no one can do it until you guys go along, right? So you kind of got like this extraordinary ability, which helps you invest in that. But then you got that upside, but then the downside is, well, is this same mechanism, is there something else coming through it? And it's just exacerbating things that are already there. The angry get angrier, the mistrustful get more mistrustful.
Yeah.
You get like this rising tide happening everywhere where you're like, well, I mean, that's just humans being humans, but suddenly it's like way worse than it's ever been before. Yeah. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Yeah. How do we stop that?
Yeah.
And after a while, it becomes obvious that it's not humans being humans anymore.
Right.
And as I've talked about I think on Savage Goose, there is a color shift in their people's auras that is associated with this. So there's a visual representation of how far the blinding has progressed in certain communities, right? And so with the plot point campaign, there is the auric shift, which is basically a red shift in physics terms, going from blue to green to yellow to amber, right? Yeah. And the further toward amber and red that you get, the worse things are getting. And in the blinding has a base, what I call shift intensity, right? And so that base shift intensity is for most of the setting of the Hun cluster is very low. But once you start playing the plot point campaign, it starts to rise. It's like the waters in 50 Fathoms, right? The waters are coming up. Eventually, it's going to drown the world.
Yeah, you've got a couple of years to screw around. It's all right. However,
that also allows the GM to pace the campaign as long as they want to pace it, right? And depending on the plot points, will give certain watershed moments, to excuse the pun, and then and you'll be able to just pace how you want to play the game. But that base shift intensity there's local shift intensity, which is among communities. It can never go below the base ever. So that base is always rising. And by the end of the campaign, like I've said, it becomes a desperate, really bad situation.
The entire galaxy is a riot just happening.
Yes. and you're tasked with not only solving this problem or inoculating people against the blinding or whatever it is that you call it, but you're also charged with preventing the loss of life while you're trying to solve this problem.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a hero.
Yeah, if you're a hero.
They're heroes. Well, Daryl doesn't play a hero.
Right, but I did just fine in the campaign.
He did.
There's room for non-heroes too.
That's right.
That's true.
Big damn heroes, ain't we just?
But I think I was going to say something I forget, but what I want to say is things get really bad at the end, and you're in a desperate situation, and man, I don't remember what I was going to say, but let's move on. I'll come back.
Okay. Well, we'll take this brief intermission to just wish John Doom a happy birthday week.
Oh, happy birthday, John!
Happy birthday, John Doom! You had to know I was going to do it.
Oh, that's what makes this plot point different.
Dude,
right?
Got you covered.
That's what makes this so difficult to express to a GM who's used to that the world is terrible and we're trying to survive in it, or the general way that RPGs tend to go, right? Because it's so easy to get trapped in that sense of everybody around you is against you, and that's just not true in the Han cluster until it starts to become true. And part of the whole conceit of the setting is that you see what this world is and what it was, and so that you can understand what you're trying to save at the end of it.
Yeah.
And so I spend a long time, and that's why the adventure book is 208 pages, is I spend a fair amount of time trying to make sure that the GM has all the tools they need to understand what to do, because I don't want to leave you hanging out in the wind.
Yeah. And as somebody who just wrapped it up, I felt like you did a great job with that. Like, I knew what the NPCs were like in this situation. I knew what the situation was like on all the planets. I knew, how to ramp up the intensity. I want to talk a little bit about, so
there's big stakes, like
there's huge
live and die by the end. Or you're like,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Lost that one.
Right. I also want to point out that, like, I talk so glowingly about the non-player characters and how wonderful they are. Not all people who are all the way, blue or what, like, that are, see what's going on.
Vivid or all the way blue or blue locked. Yep.
Yeah. Finnegan, right? Finnegan. He is Finnegan. He is what would you call that, Daryl? He's
a bastard.
Ne'er-do-well.
A shyster.
Yeah.
Compulsive liar.
Yeah, compulsive liar. Yes, but he's a good guy. So, like, I'm saying.
Go figure that, in that part where you can take over characters, guess who I usually grab?
Yes.
Right.
And he wasn't, spoiler alert, he wasn't that great a guy. He tried.
No, I don't think he tried very hard when Daryl did it, but maybe if John didn't play it, might have tried a little harder.
Right, because
our good people, quote unquote, not good, are really good. And when you're playing and the player characters are like, who is this guy? Like, it's going against everything the GM has been saying so far, and you're like, no, really, it's everybody. There's everybody can see this. It's not just I just love that part.
Yeah, and what they're talking about, right, is blue locked characters or whatever. Some people are just immune to this outside effect that's happening. Yeah. And that might be because they're really good, or it might be because they're a player character, or it might be just like the way they are. And certainly
just the way they are.
The way they are. And it's like, well, good, bad, or indifferent, you're immune to this. That means you can help, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, and at some point it's like 50 fathoms. The world is drowning.
Yeah.
Whether you're a bad person or not. Or it's like necessary evil, right? Like, they're going to take my stuff. I mean, the aliens are here. So at one point, even if you have tendencies like Figgin, who is a con man and all that, he's going to come around because there's no choice.
Yeah, I want cash, but cash doesn't do me any good.
Exactly.
Yeah, if your apartment's burning, You can't make money off of it tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. So, Tracy, we've talked a lot about it. Give us a definition and explain what this blinding is for people who may be sitting in the audience going, they keep referencing it.
Sure.
Talk about it like I should know what it is.
Right. So about when the game begins, it's about like 2653 in the future. So it's 600 years plus in the future. And about 50 years before that, people had been able to, everybody in human space, they'd already unlocked the necks, and everybody in human space could see the next auras of everybody else as vivid blue, right? But then over the course of, about I think it's actually 60 years before that is when they could see the blue, right? And over the course of about 50 years, for most of the people in human space, that color of the next auras of other people and themselves started to fade away, in terms of it just started to bleed to a colorless, like white gray glow. And the exception to that rule is that there are very, very, very few vivids out there, is what they're called. And they can still see next auras in vivid blue, even at the beginning of the game. But almost everybody else has become blinded to the color of next auras. But in addition to that, the vivids, even though most people don't even believe the vivids, because it's a perception thing. It's not like a ghost thing. It's like if somebody took a picture of somebody, a vivid would still see a blue aura in that picture. A blinded would still see a colorless aura in that picture. So it's clear to the vivids that this is a perception, this is a mind problem. And it's not clear to the blindeds that there's any problem at all, right?
Yeah. How do you explain color to someone that's never seen it?
Exactly. And so given that, the vivids have also noticed that there's a subtle shift in behavior in human space. People are becoming more impatient, more irrational. They're making worse decisions for the sake of people, right? I mean, it's on a macro level, it's on a micro level. And at the beginning of the game, it's still fairly subtle. But there are, if you don't want to play the plot point campaign, there's mechanics to say, well, the local shift intensity here is really high for whatever reason, and you can sort of mess with that.
These people are just jerks.
Yeah, these people are in bad shape, right? But the whole idea is that the vivids don't know what's going on yet, but they can sense that there's something going on. And the plot point campaign will introduce it to you in Act 1 right off the bat, and you'll know exactly what you're facing, and you'll have to figure out how to solve it.
So we have a question. So the blinded weren't born as vivid and lost it. The blinded currently have never been vivid.
So the blinded, if you were born today, you'd be born blinded. But during the blinding happening, and it's actually still happening, but that color loss, that happened for everybody in human space. And it really, like, if you were born during that time, if you were blinded, you would see a less colorful next aura right off the bat. So it doesn't seem to be person specific. It seems to be something beyond.
Environmental.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're 75, you had it for 15 years and that color has slowly drained out of your vision.
Yeah. Or if you were born 10 years ago, you barely see the blue, right? Yeah. Or 20 years ago, you barely see the blue, right? When you start, Yeah. And it then fades away by the time 2653 or 2643 comes around. So it's been, people have not been able to see them for 10 years. Behavior has gotten steadily worse, and the vivids can see it. They can sense it. They don't know what to do about it, but it's there. And that's where we start play in the Han cluster.
Awesome. Well, let's take a look at the backer kit page real quick, because I want to show two things off. First of all, look at what is available in this, right? We're talking 2 books, a ton of cards, maps. Tracy, what's your favorite thing seeing up there on the screen?
The covers of the books.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean,
Yeah.
the maps are awesome, right? I love the maps. I'm very proud of those maps because they are in the plot point campaign. One of them is that climactic map that we talked about.
I was just going to say the one in the middle is definitely familiar to my group.
We're
You
calling it
can't
the
really
core.
see.
But the covers of the books, the Bad Moon Studios did those covers. They did a phenomenal job, and I love them. And they make me want to explore the setting. And I hope that's true of everybody else as well. So that's my favorite thing.
We have another question that is interesting. As a fan of J. Michael Straczynski, I've got to bring this up. Is there any? Did you ever see Sense8? Was that an inspiration for the X bonding mechanic?
I will answer this. She has not, because I watched that and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. You should watch that. And she's like, I'm not going to have anything that might.
Yeah, I heard about it and I deliberately did not watch it. I still have not watched it.
Yeah.
Just partly because I didn't want to be influenced by it, because people who are telling me I should watch Sense8, but I really don't even really know what it's about.
Okay, then
You don't need to know.
And for those that have watched Sense8, it is similar in the connectedness,
but
it
different.
Is
wildly
dissimilar
different.
in that in Sense8, like your mind takes over the other person's body, and in this one, you can't jump into someone else.
Right, exactly.
But your like literal manifestation of your spirit can jump adjacent to them.
Right next to him. Hey, what are you doing? You cooking me some dinner? What are you gonna do?
If I concentrate really hard, I can slap you on the back of the head. You know.
Crip Wright is a man of principles who will refuse to watch Sense8 until they release Sense 1 through 7. Now, one of the unique things about this backer kit is you guys are doing a print fulfillment.
Yes.
With the same people who print
Pinnacle
the Pinnacle products.
Yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
It's not a Savage Worlds product, obviously. Yeah. I'm an ace. It's a licensed product. But my plan from the very beginning was to make it look as much like a Pinnacle product as I could, right? And there is nothing here that any other ace couldn't do. So it's just that I actually did it. So I studied Savage Worlds books. I certainly worked for Pinnacle, so I have a little insider knowledge about how they work and how they do things. But that
so
said,
it was a long con. You got hired at Pinnacle to study them.
I'm telling you,
to make
you're not wrong. Like I had a whole strategy here, and one of those things was, I mean, obviously I wanted to work for Pinnacle. I wanted to write for Pinnacle. I wanted to do the things, but I'm like, my goal here for Han Cluster is to go through I'm gonna learn how this is done by the people that I want to emulate, which is not a bad way to go. And I just happened to be talented enough that they said, yes, you can work for us and do writing for us and all this stuff. And I learned that way, and I tried to build my reputation up that way. That's how I did it. Yeah. It's not the easiest way, but I'm glad I did it that way, right? So anyway, yes, this is my goal was to make this as much like a Pinnacle product as I could, knowing that it's not. And one of those things was to go ahead and use their same printer and their same specs. So the books are the same size, they'll match on the shelf. The maps are the exact same paper, the exact same lamination, the exact same 30 by 24 inch size. They're going to be spectacular. And I'm very excited to see that come to life for something that I 100% wrote. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also want to say there was a time in our process that Tracy was like, "Oh, we'll just do role play RPG. We'll just have them print it."
Oh, drive-through, yeah.
Drive-through, yeah. Sorry, drive-through RPG. And there was a whole time where she was like really struggling about what to do and what, how much to put out there, and because backer kits and Kickstarters for people who aren't Savage Worlds are not necessarily, they're not always successful. And I, as the excellent CFO that I am, told her I wanted to spend all the money it took to get the book that she wanted on her shelf. I wanted her to, if it's a $30,000 book that we have one of, then she puts that book on her shelf and she's thrilled, right? And she has all the art and it's exactly what she wants. And so it's a really high quality book because you know, I love my wife and but I want her dreams to be met, you know. And so for me, it was really important that we put everything into it that we could to make it the absolute best that we could. And so all the decisions were, let's make it what we can, what people will want to have there as well.
Yeah, I needed to be pushed to make sure that happened.
Oh, hard!
Not,
It's like,
not just by Booth, but by Daryl, by others. They pushed me to take the risk. Yeah.
Well, and it's paid off. We, you know,
it's going very
in a good place.
Yeah.
If somebody asked for the little ribbons in the books, I don't do paper books, I do Kindle, so and PDF. So for me, it's like whatever. If somebody said they wanted the ribbons in the books, well, miraculously, that was an extra stretch goal that we hit. So, you know, if somebody wants something and we can do it, we will happily do that. Also, we have, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this yet, but I was assigned to get EU processed so that we can actually start doing the EU.
We're working on getting EU so that the European Union people can get it shipped to them. I initially restricted it because there's regulations in place, but we're working through that.
Awesome.
That's no joke. As a small business, like that's a big ask.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I'm actually
to you for going for it.
so I have a sign language interpreter, so I have the ability to flex out my schedule. And so I was just like, well, for the month of the backer kit, I was going to be home and make sure that I could support. And so Tracy's like, well, guess what I figured out you could support.
Here's this.
Your reward for being supportive is more work.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing, really, but I think it's a doable thing. I've talked to people. Luckily I've made contacts that reached out to me and gave me options, and so I'm like, okay, all right, I think we can do this. But I haven't. It's not for sure yet, but it's coming. I think it's coming.
Yeah. Well, I'm putting the link in the chat again. We'll if you have not supported the Han Cluster, go do it now. I will say we've seen a little bit of creep during the
good.
Nice.
During the
appreciated.
Yeah, I mean that's the joy of my job. I just get to hang out and talk with cool people about cool Savage Worlds things. And
so I'm curious, as the writer of this thing, this monstrosity that I've been working on for 10 years, and don't worry about hurting my feelings or anything, but I'm wondering, like, what is each of your favorite moments in the Plot Point campaign? And if it's sensitive, don't worry about spoiling too much. But if it's really sensitive, of course, you can use your discretion.
My table loved the final fight. They thought that kind of brought everything to a focus, everything to a head, like everything that all of the mechanical bits about the Han Cluster as well as all the mysteries. But I think the thing that stands out as the most fun that we had in the whole Plot Point campaign, Tracy built this auction in and built some really fun mechanics around it. It's not a super, it feels like a Savage Worlds mechanic. Let me put it that way. It's not like this bolted on thing. It feels like a Savage Worlds mechanic. So you're not tracking dollars. You're not tracking mega credits. You're not worried about how much you're up, how, far you're down. Oh, Landauer just said the auction as well. Yeah. And Shane.
That seems to be the popular answer.
You cheater stole both of my choices. I feel like I got to dig a little deeper here.
They, and the things that the group wanted to win at the auction, they were able to maneuver and get support for, and walked away with beyond just what they needed to get at the auction. That advanced stealth system was super useful. I'm not saying that John Doom was sitting there in the background kind of puppet mastering the team going, hey, you know what would be really awesome? A super stealth system. For some reason, I don't know why.
And I love that there's enough like random items like that the wrong character can be like, yeah, that's cool and all, but did you see the other things that my character would kind of want?
Yeah, my character would really like this Neo Nexus scroll, or I want to see what's in that meteoroid over there.
That's right.
Yeah. When I played it, our actual play was all about the ice cream. Everywhere we went, we're doling out little shares of the ice cream. People would go at midnight and steal their own little bowl of ice cream on the ship. And yeah, ice cream is a big deal.
So auction was your favorite?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, no. I it's hard for me to like pick out perfect moments because it's all about when I'm hitting the heart and all of a sudden I'm crying in the middle of a game. That's where it's more. Madeline, playing
Madeline.
And being connected to Madeline as her, like having I played the courtesan robot, so I didn't I hadn't gone to school, and so I was really curious about why you would go to some planet and like look at dirt, like that was weird, and to have that connection with the also like somebody asked for a stretch goal of Tracy doing a recording of all of the read alouds. She's phenomenal at them. So I mean, all GMs can do it. Everybody can do it, but her read alouds is her playing those characters is just something awesome.
So for people who don't know, Madeline in the Plot Point campaign is an NPC who becomes ex-bonded with your group along with you.
Yep.
It's the normie that gets pulled in.
That's right. She has her own life. She has her own ambitions and stuff, and she doesn't feel like she's the adventurer type.
Yeah.
But she is going to be there, and she's there for GMs to mess around with, for players to mess around with. It's kind of what you want to do with her, right?
You've got this extra that you can tap on anytime you want.
Exactly.
Traumatize or toughen her up.
Happen to just go to a planet if you needed to.
But she generally spends her time on track for the whole Plot Point campaign. But it depends on what you do. And it's just one of those levers that you can use, Daryl?
Well, since my other two were cruelly stolen together, in fact.
Yeah. We planned it beforehand.
The final fight in the auction?
Yeah, I'll slide down the shock. And the reason the reason I like that one, A, it's a good mystery, but B, I'm kind of an action guy, and that's the one where you're getting strafed by spaceships, and at least I've played it a bunch of times, and on 50% of them, I'm the pilot and manage to get into the enemy ship, take out the people inside, and everyone's like, "Did we just get a second spaceship? What happened here?" I like the gunfire, and I'm always delighted when you get strafed on the surface, and people are like, "Oh no, it's fine. This is fine." Bam, 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 bam. Oh my God, it's not fine.
You're suddenly hit with a medium autocannon heavy weapon on, it's, and I've done that at one shots too. I'm like, all right, Cicada, you're going to get strafed by this thing. And, it was brutal and yet fun. And she was okay, but man.
Yeah, that's just it. I'm a mean basher, so I like it when it gets tough like that. It's like, oh
and
yeah,
so do I.
we can really sink in and fight here.
Yeah, and then you've got splashes of crystal. Splashes of crystal all over the place.
Oh yeah, the acid water is the best.
That's an intense scene.
Yeah. It's still Savage Worlds. Dice still explode.
Yes.
It'll still happen. The entire table screams or groans. It's just It's.
I think
it's what we love.
it's hard because I love all those moments. Obviously, I've labored for a long time to get that Plot Point campaign the way it was.
Yeah.
And to have innovation and interesting, right? It's just like, okay, well, that's boring. So I've got to go back to the drawing board and figure this out. What are we going to do on Edenic? Right. And I found out something, I figured out something that's pretty great, I think. But I think one of my, to speak to the heart of the Han Cluster, there is a moment in the early, I don't know, Act 3 or 4, during one of the interacts that happens, that is, to me, one of the most poignant moments in the campaign. and it hits me every time as a GM. I'm not sure how it hits players. It really is up to the players whether they want to engage with it or not. It's one of those underneath the surface kinds of things that they can go and engage. I'm wondering what JM's group did, but I don't want to give away too much about it. But you'll know it when you get there, if the GM is willing to go there with you.
Yep. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And it's both sad, bittersweet, sad, and also inspiring and beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's the heart of the Han cluster to me. Did your players engage with that, Jam?
They did.
Okay.
They did.
It involves Haley Preston, who's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah. And
she's on the cover of the source book, actually.
Right there.
But it's also a chance for the players to open up and kind of give their character that little extra, like, oh, this is why I'm here. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when we discovered that
my
Chris
part.
Wright said his favorite part was mechanically you want to split the party. You're going to this convention.
Yeah.
Crip Wright's still angry that so the funniest thing for me was, I think I told you this, Tracy. First session, get the group introduced. They're on the ship. The incursion happens.
The incursion happens.
Everyone fails their fear check. They fail it so bad that two of the characters got phobias of I looked up the word for yellow phobia, and that was Crip Wright. He was angry at me for the rest of the campaign. He got a major phobia. I'm like, well. And then our linked machine suffered a heart attack or a system overload and failed.
Oh no!
Very first roll of the game. Yeah, look, they're in the chat right now. Robot heart attack, robot heart attack, robot heart attack.
It was the red ring of death.
Welcome. You have a -2 modifier for this campaign. Thanks for joining, Crip Wright. Glad to have you aboard, buddy.
Yeah. That's and that incursion, that thing, and I don't mind spoiling that a little, because that first act.
It's right off. Yeah.
What's interesting is what I ran into with the blind playtest before anybody played it was I had questions of like, what are we supposed to be doing, right? And I addressed that a little bit in the book, but part of it is that mystery of, look, trust the game. You're what you want to do is create a character that inhabits this world, and no matter what kind of character you create, as long as you've got the skills that a character has, you're going to find a way to use those skills to affect what happens, right? Like but the first act, right off the bat, you are shown in a very, very visceral way what will happen if the blinding goes its full to its full extent.
And I think, and I don't say this lightly, like I'm not making a flippant comment, but Han Cluster was designed for Savage Worlds. You use all of the different rules and mechanics, but even the fact, like what you just said, hey, just start off and make any character, because here's the thing, over the at least 10 advancements that you're going to get over the 10 acts, as your character delves into the mystery, you get to respond to that by saying, man, I really need to learn how to repair things because we almost died. Okay, well, I'm going to spend advancements on repair. I'm going to spend and it's not, sometimes we get into our Savage Pathfinder game and we're like, all right, cool, I'm going to play a fighter. I'm going to do all of this stuff. I'm going to kind of I've got my build planned out because I know what's going to generally happen in a Rise of the Runelords campaign.
Yeah, sure.
But in this, like, you have to respond. Like, you respond to the mystery by developing your character, and then that allows you to delve deeper into the mystery, which just creates this feedback through it.
And hilariously, Han Cluster was not originally designed for Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
I think it's like the third system, but one of those things that came, and because I worked there too, like I'm trying super hard not to push for it, right? It's like, oh no, we want to do this as whatever it's the best fit for, but just over time in development, it's like, all right, we're fighting way too hard to not be Savage
Right.
Worlds.
Right.
Let's just lean into this instead.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, suddenly it all works so easily.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask, what
Yeah.
were the other two systems?
Oh, so one was Daryl had a system.
Yeah.
And it was really great, actually. I really liked it. And so I started with that, and partly just because I had Daryl, the creator of it, there and with me, and he created a wiki for me and everything. And so I messed with that for a while, and then I moved to Fate for a while, and I ran it as Fate in convention games for a long time. It actually works well in Fate.
And I played my very first convention game was that the Shock episode and with Fate, and it was a freaking blast.
Right? But
it was so much fun. I'm now a gamer because of that.
The beautiful thing, though, what's fascinating, you can get into this when you get into design discussion, but Han Cluster in Fate is a completely different game than Han Cluster in Savage Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different vibe. It's a different way of interacting with the world and with the GM and all that. In Savage Worlds, I thought, no, this fits. And the reason it fits is because I want you to feel the danger. And Savage Worlds does that super well.
Yeah.
Like it does it well in micro and macro. It allows you to have tactical combats and make tactical decisions and risk reward and all that stuff. I wanted Han Cluster to have that. And I also just loved the obviously the subsystems, right? It just fits so well. The social conflicts I use extensively, and I use them in a way that they're not throwaways, that they don't matter. No, they matter. If you don't do well with these social conflicts, bad things can happen, or at least less ideal outcomes happen.
Yeah. Well, we're not going back to that planet.
That's right. I also have to say your specific tweaks to the dramatic task system in that final dramatic task at the end of the campaign was very well received by the table.
Again, it reinforces the mechanics and the narrative of connection.
Well,
can't do this alone.
Thank you all for coming on and talking about the Han Cluster. I feel very honored that I got the opportunity to do a blind playtest for you, Tracy. I love the Han Cluster. The group loved the Han Cluster. And I'm going to put the link back up. Have a question here. This is probably a more broad one. Gamehole Con has been steadily growing as a base for supporting Savage Worlds. We do have that's Gamehole Con of all the conventions I go to is my favorite convention. Any idea why Gamehole Con has become such a Savage Worlds focused? I mean, aside from the fact that Savage Worlds is just the best role playing game.
Obviously,
that's right. Yeah, we have the most fun. We're the loudest group.
People, right? People. As long as someone is there and plants a flag, people come and plant those flags everywhere, y'all. People will gather. Right?
Yeah, that helps. But Gamehole does have a very strong Savage Worlds presence, thanks to the Savage Alliance, who were already there before Pinnacle ever showed up. And now they're going very strong, and I love it there because we have a room that we all get to congregate in. We all know we're all Savage Worlds players, and that there's nothing quite like that. Nothing quite like it.
Awesome. Well, Tracy, congratulations again. Boof, Daryl, thanks for coming and hanging out. This has been awesome.
Anytime.
I just want to give credit, a little bit of actual real credit to Daryl. This is not a misattribution. Daryl was really instrumental in developing how X-bonding worked. But and wanted to make sure that everybody knows that.
Yeah, well, and so much of that, right, you guys, is just listening. As Tracy's got these ideas, and I will listen. And because I'm on the meaner spectrum of gaming, where she's on the optimistic side, my questions would always be, how could this be abused? Which that's not her instinct to go there, but it is mine. Like, okay, I'm the villain. How do I take advantage?
Yeah, exactly.
This, right. And the things that come out of that become like plot points where you go, oh yeah, here's how you would take advantage of that. You got to stop somebody from doing that. That is super interesting. But
formative influence in the Han cluster, Daryl Hayhurst. That's why you're here. And so thank you. I'll say it publicly and again and again. Thank you, Daryl.
It's on the record now, Daryl.
Without you. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Anytime
Daryl,
Daryl tries to,
He did all the work. I just listened.
I'll stop interrupting you.
All right, it's fine.
well, we're at about an hour, so I'm going to wrap us up here. Go check out the Han cluster if you haven't already. It looks like about 3-4 people have already backed since we started, so that's fantastic.
Thank you so much. Really.
We're gonna try and do a last hour stream with you, Tracy,
The 17th
on the 17th.
Thursday.
We'll
if you have it open, I'll do it.
I gotta confirm scheduling, but I really want to do that. And next week on Savage Universe, we're gonna have Star Anvil Studios back as they're launching their
Starbreaker.
their new Starbreaker, yeah, Star Marines is coming out.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
well, everyone, thank you so much. I will see you all next week. Until then, go out and play some Savage Worlds, and may all your dice ace. Have a good one, everybody.